Good morning. We had started planning in the last class. Let us continue. We had discussed the meaning of planning, which is thinking in advance, what is to be done, when is to be done, how is to be done, and by whom is to be done. So in planning, job is determined that what job has to be done, and that job is divided among various people of the organization. This is what is involved in planning. Now, let us discuss the features of planning. So we had gone through the definitions of planning. Let us discuss the features or characteristics of plan. Number one, planning contributes to objectives. Planning starts with determination of objectives. We cannot think of planning in absence of objective. So any organization which has objective, they will only plan for their future. After setting up the objectives, planning decides the method, procedure, and step to be taken for achievement of set objectives. So methods of procedures are the various types of plan which we will read about later in the chapter. So planning, or in the step of planning, we have to first decide the objective, that what is the objective of the enterprise or the business. Then on the basis of that we have to make planning. Second, planning is primary function of management. Primary, that means first. So since in schooling also primary is the first or basic study, likewise in business, planning is done first and then only execution is done. Planning is the primary or first function to be performed by every manager. No other function can be executed by the manager without performing planning function, because objectives are set up in planning and other functions depend on the objectives only. So it is the basic function of the management, and on the basis of this basic objective, that is planning, execution, that means completing the job, is to be done, and after completing the job the controlling function can also be done. So everything depends upon planning. So first objective, and then on the basis of objective planning is done first. So example, in organizing function, manager assign authority and responsibility to the employees, and level of authority and responsibility depends upon objective of the company. Similarly, in staffing, the employees are appointed. The number and types of employees again depend on objectives of the company. So planning always proceeds and remains at number one as compared to other functions. It is number one because it is the first function of management, because planning will be done only planning. After planning, any staffing can be done, that means employees can be appointed, or only after planning you can divide the job and you can pass the job to different people or distribute the job to different people of the organization. Third, planning is pervasive. About management also we have discussed that management is pervasive. The planning is also pervasive because it prevails everywhere. Planning is required at all levels of management and in all types of organizations. It is not a function restricted to top level managers only, but planning is done by managers at every level. Every level means supervisory or lowest level, middle level, as well as the top level. Formation of major plan and framing of overall policies is task of top level managers, whereas departmental managers form plan for their respective departments, and lower level managers make plan to support the overall objectives and to carry on day-to-day activities. So suppose purchase department, the purchase manager will also plan about how to purchase. The worker at the workers level or the factory level, the supervisor will decide that which work has to be completed first, and then after first which work has to be completed. So planning is done in lower level also. Fourth is planning is futuristic or forward looking. Planning always means looking ahead of planning, or planning is futuristic plan. We always plan for future. For example, for a picnic also, if we are planning, we are planning about future. Planning is never done for past. All the managers try to make predictions and assumptions for future, and these predictions are made on basis of past experience of the manager and with the regular and intelligent scanning of general environment. So on the basis of experience of the manager and scanning, that means reading and understanding the situations of the business environment, the manager plans. So all the managers trying to predict what could happen in future, how will be the demand of product in future, and if it is the production department, the production manager will think about how will the methods of production be different in future or will be changing in future, and accordingly they make a plan. So if there is a purchase of machinery, so for deciding about a purchase of machinery in future, they will first think whether there will be any change in production process or not, and then only they will purchase machinery. And if there is probability of any change in production process, they will purchase new type of machinery. Like this, every manager thinks about future when they are planning. Next is planning is continuous. That means planning never ends. Planning is a never ending or continuous process because after making plans, also one has to be in touch with the changes in changing environment and in the selection of one best way. So after making plans, also planners keep making changes in the plan according to requirement of the company. For example, if the plan is made during boom period and during execution there is depression period, then planners may have to make changes according to conditions prevailing. So in today's situation, we can well understand this, that 1 year ago when the managers had planned about their organization, probably their targets were different. Their production target, purchase target, sales target, everything was different because they did not had thought about the situation that we are facing today. But in today's situation, they have changed all the plans. They have changed the selection of employees. That means today we are observing that none of the organizations are continuing the selection process or staffing process. They are doing those or they have deferred those process. So planning has changed today on the basis of today's situation. Likewise, in every organization, planning has to be changed on the basis of changing environment, and that is why it is continuous. So today also everybody is planning or every business is planning on the basis of the situation prevailing in that particular month. So planning continues every time. Planning involves decision making. The planning function is needed only when different alternatives are available and we have to select most suitable alternatives. We cannot planning imagine planning in absence of choice because in planning function managers evaluate various alternatives and select the most appropriate. But if there is one alternative available, then there is no requirement of planning. For example, to import the technology, if the license is only with State Trading Corporation, then companies have no choice but to import the technology through STC only. But if there are 4 or 5 import agencies included in this task, then the planners have to evaluate terms and conditions of all the agencies and select the most suitable from the company's point of view. So this is only an example in which it is said that planning will involve decision making. If there are many choices, then there will be one choice that has to be selected. And in case of no choice, they will choose whatever is available. So in today also people are choosing out of various alternatives. They are making changes. And when planning is done, the planners decide whether we have to do this work according to capital intensive technology or labor intensive technology. Like this, they have to, when they have to purchase, they will decide from which particular seller we will purchase the raw materials. Since there are many raw material suppliers, like this, while appointment, they have to select out of many candidates. So in every case, planning is done when there is choice and it involves making a decision. Then planning is a mental exercise. Why it is mental exercise? Planning is a mental process which requires higher thinking. That is why it is kept separate from operational activities by Taylor. In planning, assumptions and predictions regarding future are made by scanning the environment properly. So, scanning means reading the environment and understanding the environment properly. So, assumptions or predictions are made after reading the environment, understanding the environment properly, and this requires higher level of intelligence because a layman or a common man cannot understand the situation and cannot read the situation and environment properly. It is required, or this type of things can be done by people who have more mental strength and who have more experience. So that is why it is said that planning is mental exercise. Secondly, in planning, various alternatives are evaluated and most suitable is selected, which again requires higher level of intelligence. So while buying machinery also, which type of machinery has to be purchased, they have to be selected out of various alternatives. In this also the factory managers have to evaluate the use of different machineries, outcome of different machineries, and then only they will select which machinery to be purchased. These also require higher level of intelligence, and these managers many times have several rounds of meeting and then only they decide that which has to be selected. While selection also, or selection of employees also, they have to make a meeting and then select the suitable candidate. That is why it is said that planning is mental exercise. So it is called mental exercise or intellectual process. So these are the features of planning. Features of planning contributes to objectives. It is the primary function of management. It is pervasive. That means it prevails everywhere. It is a continuous process. That means planning never stops. It continues every time. It involves decision making. They have to make a decision, or managers have to make a decision out of various alternatives. Planning is a mental exercise since higher level of thinking is required in planning, so planning is called mental exercise. So you go through the book, try to understand the features of planning, revise them, and also go through some case studies or MCQs given in your book. So we will continue next topic in the next class. Thank you.